No movie exists without some sort of inspiration, and sometimes the impetus for a film comes from somewhere massively unexpected. And that's most certainly true of these 10 movies, each of which came to fruition by means nobody could have seen coming, and that few, if any, who have seen the film would have likely been able to guess. So let's take a look at them. I'm Adam, this is What Culture, and here are 10 movies inspired by things nobody expected.
Want to stay safe online and save big? Get up to 76% off a 2-year NordVPN plan, plus 4 months free and up to a $50 Amazon gift card. Just scan the QR code or click the link in the description and it's all yours.
Number 10. Christmas Shopping, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Though it's no secret that the Texas Chainsaw Massacre was somewhat inspired by the crimes of murderer Ed Gein, but writer-director Tobe Hooper only threw a chainsaw into the mix after an especially harrowing bout of Christmas shopping. Yeah. At the 2014 Cannes Film Festival to celebrate the film's 40th anniversary, Hooper revealed that while he was working on the script, he found himself doing some seasonal shopping at a Montgomery Ward department store, where he became frustrated with the crowds. As he attempted to escape the masses, he glimpsed a chainsaw in the store, and a macabre idea immediately took root in Hooper's mind. He said, quote, "I thought, this is a no-brainer. What a way to get out of this store. But rather than go to jail, I decided to instead incorporate the hedge-cutting weapon into the script." To think that arguably the single most iconic aspect of the entire franchise was the result of pure happenstance while the director was begrudgingly running errands is actually wild. Number 9. A Fever Dream, The Terminator. The Terminator is one of the most ingeniously premised sci-fi movies of all time, and laid the groundwork for James Cameron to later become one of the most successful filmmakers of all time. And yet, Cameron's conception of the film came when he was in Rome working on Piranha 2: The Spawning and suffering from a fever. Cameron had a fever dream where he imagined a chrome skeleton emerging from fire, which ultimately became one of the most elemental images from the original Terminator. Never one to waste time, Cameron quickly got to work upon waking up. As he told the BFI in 2021, "The first sketch I did showed a metal skeleton cut in half at the waist, crawling over a tile floor using a large kitchen knife to pull itself forward whilst reaching out with the other hand. In a second drawing, the character is threatening a crawling woman. Minus the kitchen knife, these images became the finale of the Terminator almost exactly." And so, A Fever Dream was effectively responsible for Cameron's blockbuster filmmaking career as we know it. Number 8. The director's road rage incident, The Purge. Now, the concept for 2013's The Purge is one of those genius ideas that about every screenwriter wishes they'd come up with. But in the case of the film's writer-director, James DeMonaco, it was actually born out of a violent incident itself. During a 2014 interview with Complex to promote sequel The Purge Anarchy, DeMonaco revealed that the seeds of The Purge were sown following a road rage incident, where DeMonaco and his wife were cut off on the highway by a drunk driver. The ensuing confrontation led to a fistfight between DeMonaco and the other driver, with the cops eventually being called. Afterwards, the filmmaker's enraged wife said to him, "Wouldn't it be great if we all had one free a year? As in, every person was allowed to kill someone each year." DeMonaco initially told his wife, "That's so effed up, honey," but the idea stuck with him and was built upon for the very concept of The Purge, where for one night every year, all crime, including murder, is legal. Though the filmmaker credits his wife with the creation of The Purge, he does insist that she's a sweet woman regardless. Number 7. A fake classified ad from 1997, Safety Not Guaranteed. Alright, so this one's a little bit crazy, but I actually really love it. So in 2012's indie comedy Safety Not Guaranteed, it revolves around 3 magazine employees who head out to interview a man who placed a classified newspaper ad seeking a time travel companion. Now, it's a perfectly adorable concept for the sort of quirky indie movie that typically premieres at the Sundance Film Festival, as this film did, but it wasn't actually an original idea from Derek Connolly. Rather, in 2007, Connolly stumbled across a famous ad that was published where someone indeed put an ad out for someone to travel back in time with them, insisting that it wasn't a joke and adding that yes, safety wasn't guaranteed. Despite being a fake classified written for the mag by senior editor John Silvera, it became something of a phenomenon at the time, with Silvera receiving thousands of letters in response. Connolly went on to write a character-driven drama propelled by the very concept, which received rave reviews and won Sundance's coveted Waldo Salt Screenwriting Award. Number 6. The set of Blade Runner, Robocop. I feel like this one kinda makes sense when you watch both movies, but the casual observer couldn't really be blamed for assuming that 1987 sci-fi satire Robocop was based on, say, a comic book, especially considering the film's larger-than-life pulpy vibe, as well as the fact that Batman and Daredevil's Frank Miller was involved in sequels Robocop 2 and 3 as a screenwriter. But Robocop was actually an entirely original script penned by Edward Neumeier and Michael Miner, from an idea brought up by Neumeier. Neumeier found inspiration in the most unexpected avenue though, while working on the set of a little sci-fi movie you may have heard of called Blade Runner. In a 2014 interview with The Dissolve, Neumeier stated that in 1981 he was working for Warner Brothers as a scriptreader, all while Ridley Scott was shooting Blade Runner next door. And so, after clocking out of his day job at Warner Brothers, Neumeier started visiting the Blade Runner set where he began working as an unofficial, unpaid employee, helping the art department create garbage for street scenes. And at the end of his 4th night on set, a sleep-deprived Neumeier had the word Robocop just pop into his head, as well as the basic design idea of a character as a bluish armored thing. So in an indirect way, Robocop is just another sci-fi masterpiece we can thank Ridley Scott for. Number 5. Articles about Hmong refugees dying, A Nightmare on Elm Street. A Nightmare on Elm Street is another one of those incredible ideas that just about every filmmaker wishes fell into their lap. A serial killer who eliminates his victims in their dreams? I mean, genius. Wes Craven came up with the idea after reading a series of Los Angeles Times articles in the late 1970s and early 1980s, in which a number of Hmong refugees in the United States died mysteriously in their sleep. The refugees, having fled war and genocide in Laos, Cambodia, and Vietnam, were plagued by horrific dreams which left them refusing to sleep. The deaths themselves baffled medical personnel, who considered the possibility that the refugees died from nightmare death syndrome, that is, quite literally scared to death by abnormally traumatic nightmares. Though the actual cause of the deaths is contentious to this very day, most often described as sudden cardiac arrest of some kind, it served as the foundation for cinema's great dream killer, Freddy Krueger. Number 4. Charlie Kaufman struggles to adapt The Orchid Thief adaptation. Charlie Kaufman and Spike Jonze's Oscar-winning metafictional comedy adaptation feels like it's precisely the movie that screenwriter Kaufman had in his head from the very beginning. But that couldn't be further from the truth. Kaufman was actually hired to write a straight adaptation of Susan Orlean's book, but after suffering from crippling writer's block, he decided to instead write a screenplay about his own struggles to adapt the novel. Kaufman was well aware that such a zany concept would be immediately shot down if he mentioned it during development, and so he simply wrote the script without the higher-ups knowing what he was doing. The final script was especially surprising to Orlean herself, who initially refused to sign off on such a left-field adaptation of her best-selling book, and only later relented. However, Orlean was ultimately left very impressed by the film. Few adaptations of hit novels have had quite such an unpredictable path to the screen, where the writer's own creative process unexpectedly becomes a driving force for the narrative. Number 3. Amado Modigliani's paintings, Mama. Andy Muschietti's 2013 horror film Mama has one of the more distinctive and memorable designs of any horror monster from the last decade or so, its angular, distorted facial features helping propel the film to enormous box office success. In a 2017 interview with the New York Times to promote his adaptation of Stephen King's It, Muschietti revealed that Mama's design was inspired by the work of Italian-Jewish artist Amado Modigliani. He said, "It's a literal translation of a very personal childhood fear. In my house, there was a print of a Modigliani painting that I found terrifying, and the thought of meeting an incarnation of the woman would drive me crazy. Modigliani often does these portraits with elongated characters. His vision of humans, where with elongated necks, crooked faces, and empty eyes most of the time. It was so deformed that, as a child, you don't see that as an artist's style, you see it as a monster." With that in mind, it's honestly kind of surprising that more horror movies don't look to creepy fine art for inspiration, because there's plenty of it that is sure freaky alright. Number 2. The Metallica song 1, Sinners. Ryan Coogler's incredible recent vampire film Sinners is undeniably indebted to musical traditions of decades, even centuries past. But did even a single one of us expect it to be heavily influenced by Metallica? In an interview with the Detroit News to promote the film, Coogler revealed that Metallica's legendary 1989 opus 1 was instrumental in defining the film's structure. Coogler said, "I wanted it to have the contrast, variation, and the inevitability of a great Metallica song like 1. It starts off with almost like an easy listening solo, you know what I'm saying, and then it just goes bat-ass insane, in a way you could have never seen coming, and at the same time, it felt like it was going there all along. The movie's basically that." While Sinners wears many of its musical inspirations on its sleeve, who would have ever predicted that Metallica would be responsible for dictating the narrative's ebb and flow? And number 1, an autocorrect mistake, the Velocipasta. It takes a special sort of mind to come up with a movie like The Velocipasta, a comedy horror in which a priest discovers he has the ability to turn into a velociraptor. I mean, sure, why the hell not? And so, when Brendan Steer began doing press for the 2018 film, of course the first question from just about every journalist was, how the hell did you think of this concept? Surprisingly, it wasn't the result of controlled substances, but something as simple as an autocorrect mistake. As Steer told Dread Central in 2019, he needed to make a project for film school and didn't have any ideas, and when he typed Velociraptor into his phone, it was inexplicably autocorrected to Velocipasta, almost as if the fates themselves willed the Velocipasta into existence. Oh, what do you know? Steer thought the concept could be just dumb enough to be fun, and so made a short film which ended up going viral in 2011, leading to the full-fat feature film many years later. And I mean, if you don't fancy the new Jurassic Park movies and want to enjoy something a bit more out there, then the Velocipasta is waiting for you.